Hey everyone, my name is Nick, and in the next few months, my plan is to teach entry-level statistics. I'm super stoked about statistics. I've taught it a bunch, and now, given the current event that's going on, event that shall not be named, I thought it'd be a great time to kind of put all of my enthusiasm for the subject out there on the internet. I'm going to be using this book. Let's see, this book, David Howell's Statistical Methods for Psychology. I think it's a real great book. It's a good reference book. It's written to be used as a reference book, as a book you can use while learning, but also to go to in the future. So, kind of the first place to start is, what is statistics? Why learn it, right? Like, why is this something you should know? Well, to me, statistics is the collection, the organization, the analysis, and the interpretation of data. So if you're working with data in kind of any realm, statistics is super useful. You're going to use it if you're doing science, if you're doing data science, if you're a journalist, if you're just wanting to be an educated consumer, if you want to look into the scientific or business literature. It's important to know kind of how they deal with data and how you can interpret their findings, right? So statistics is super useful in many domains. Um, so the next question is, what is data? Well, data is just a big collection of observations. So take the census, for example. The census is something that happens every 10 years in the United States, and it goes to every household, and it asks a bunch of questions. Things like, how many people live in that house? What is your ethnic or racial background? What is your gender? What is your income? Things like that. And it uses that information using statistics to figure out how many representatives your area should have and how much money should go to those districts. So the census is an amazing opportunity to think about how data is collected, how it's analyzed, and then how it's interpreted, and then one more than that, how it impacts your everyday life, right? So knowing how many people live in a house and how many houses there are in a certain area will say how dense the place is. Because you might have 10 people per household, but if the houses are really far apart, it's not very dense. There's clustering that's involved, right? So both within houses and then within neighborhoods and then within towns and then within cities and states and so on, so on, so on. Statistics are really great when you need to make decisions when there's uncertainty present, when there's variability or variance present. What do I mean by that? So, if you wanted to know if men or women were taller, which gender is taller, men or women? Well, you can't go and measure every man and woman because there's 7 billion people in the world. So you're going to have to take a sample, right? And from that sample, you're going to have to make a decision who's taller, men or women. And there's some uncertainty because you didn't measure everybody. You only measured some people. And so if you missed something important, you could have a skewed result. Statistics help minimize those errors. So data can come in, and we'll get to all those things in time. We're not going to talk about all of them right now, but that's kind of the reason why statistics are important, to help make decisions when uncertainty is present and help understand your observations, understand your data. Okay, so data can come in different forms. There's kind of two main forms data can come in. There is discrete data and there's continuous data. So discrete data are data that have finite values. So think categories, or think count, when you count things, or when you have like different music categories, genres. For instance, if asking people their favorite movie, or favorite type of movie, there is comedy, there is suspense, there is horror, there is drama. These are discrete units, right? There is no continuous kind of flow from one to the other. Or if you're counting, right? Let's say how many streets have a McDonald's on them, or how many McDonald's are there per street. So you go to one street, there's 0 McDonald's. You go to the next street, there's 0 McDonald's. You go to the third street, there's one McDonald's. There's not a half a McDonald's or a three-quarters of McDonald's. They come in discrete units. So discrete data is one type of data where there are discrete units. Continuous data is data that can take any range of any value of a number within a range. So let's say temperature, right? Temperature, you can drill down to the 100th decimal place if you wanted to. What's the temperature outside? It's 72.38962.7, blah, 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 right? It can get smaller and smaller and smaller. Let's say self-esteem. If you're measuring self-esteem on a scale, it can vary from, let's say, 1 to 10, but within that, it can go, I am 3.67432 happy, but only between 1 and 10, right? So continuous data doesn't mean it goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. It just means that it can be drilled down into smaller and smaller and smaller units. So discrete data, remember, is kind of set values, think categories. Continuous data are more cut into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, things that are more spread, height, weight, temperature, things that you can take into very small decimal places. So knowing what kind of data you have is very important for deciding how you can use that data to make decisions, right? Eventually, we'll talk about different statistical tests you can use, and deciding which test you'll use depends a lot on what type of data you have. So knowing what you have is kind of the first piece of the puzzle before you start doing statistical tests to decide how you're going to make a decision with your data. So related to the different types of data, discrete and continuous data, there are another set of dualities, another duality. There's quantitative data and there's qualitative data. Quantitative data is sometimes called measurement data, and it's data that results from some sort of measurement. So when you measure how tall somebody is, that is a quantitative measurement. Quantitative measurement tends to be always described in numbers. When you use a thermometer to measure the temperature, that is quantitative data. When you use a scale from 1 to 10 to measure happiness or self-esteem, that is quantitative data. When you use a scale to measure weight and you get some value, that is quantitative data. When you count how many people like certain types of music, certain genres of music, that is quantitative data because you're counting those people, and so you wind up with a value, which is discrete. It's a count of people, but that is quantitative data. Qualitative data is sometimes, where did I put it? It doesn't have another name. Qualitative data is data that's not easily expressed in numbers. So think the results of an interview, right? So you have someone ask some questions, and then people give answers in words. They describe events. Ethnographic research is qualitative. So when people go and they live or work in a certain environment, if you've read the book Nickel and Dimed, that is a type of ethnography. Leisureville, another type of ethnography book. These are just books I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Now this is qualitative data, where you are reading about the experiences of people when people are kind of giving you more long form answers rather than how happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10. You ask someone, how happy are you? And they respond with, today I'm feeling great. I had 2 cups of coffee this morning, so I'm really feeling ready to go even though it's a Monday morning. That would be more qualitative. Now you can take that data and you can code it, and you can try to convert it into something qualitative. You can have people read these results and then translate them into something that can be expressed as a number, and that is something you can choose to do. Or you can do things like content analysis to kind of figure out what are the themes that come out of these responses. Oh, I see that people are often unhappy on Mondays but happy on Fridays. Maybe there's something to that. So that's where we'll start. We'll start with thinking about types of data that you have, and as we move forward, we're going to think about how can we look at this data and figure out what it's telling us, and eventually how can we make decisions using the data we have. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, do all those fun things. And if you like this or you have questions, comments, please leave them below. And then we'll go from there. So, bye.